Hi, I'm Marcus Cupola, and I'm a registered psychotherapist. You might remember me from such impersonation videos as Duck Duck Goose and What Did the Fox Say? This video is about feeling like an imposter, or imposter syndrome. Now, imposter syndrome is when you are something, but you feel like you're not. You feel like you're an imposter. Now, there are a few things that lead up to this. One is simply not having the experience. Right? When we first start being a therapist, we don't have years and years of experience behind us, even if we have lots of expertise. Also, we've been taught all the way up, you're not allowed to misrepresent yourself. And of course, until you graduate and then you get registered somewhere or licensed or whatever the terminology is, then you still aren't a therapist yet. So there's a lot of messages that we get. And then while we're learning, we're often told, well, you're still learning, right? You need to make sure that they know you're a student clinician. And we receive all kinds of messages that we don't know what we're doing. We get graded on our tests all the way through in the undergrad and then the graduate degrees. And we're continually told that we're not quite there. We're not good enough. We don't know what we're doing. This is one of the unintended consequences of the education system when you're heading into a profession, is you no longer have the confidence that you know what you're doing because you've been told all the way up, you don't know what you're doing. You don't know what you're doing. You don't know what you're doing. So when we finally get there, it's hard for us to say, I know what I'm doing with any sort of confidence because we've been told the opposite. Now, interestingly, when you start seeing clients, by the time you get to seeing clients, you've actually passed all of that. So you have your education, you have your credential. You are now literally qualified to see clients. And when we make a mistake, sometimes we'll think, well, this just proves I don't know what I'm doing. Well, being qualified doesn't mean that you know everything. In fact, no good therapist would ever say they did know everything. So if you really want to know, am I a therapist? Am I doing this right? Look to your clients, the way you interact with your clients. You don't need to prove to your clients that you're qualified. All you need to do is look to that connection with your clients. If you feel that you're making that connection with that client and you know what you're talking about, you're talking, they're listening, they're paying attention to what you say, they may or may not believe you, but they trust that you know what you're doing because you're on the other side of the room. That connection will tell you whether or not you're a therapist. If you're not connecting with any of your clients, then it might be time to rethink. But for the most part, by the time we get here, we've learned how to connect with people. In fact, that's one of our strengths. One of the things that can actually cause a barrier with clients is when we're too shiny and too professional. What happens then is we're a bit too detached, and it doesn't allow the client to connect with us. So by being sort of a real person in a sense, but still, of course, being professional, we can still offer that connection as a person. And that's what will show you that you're being a real therapist. We don't have to solve all the world's problems. We don't have to solve their problems in a single session. In fact, they have to solve their problems. We're there as a guide. We're the experts in the process of therapy, but they are the experts in them. And the client, unfortunately, has to do all the work. So where we can fall into a trap with feeling like an imposter is sometimes feeling like we need to do something for the client. Right? I need to be the therapist. I need to do, feeling that pressure to perform. Well, that is information to us that something is happening in the session. Why do I feel a pressure to perform? So whenever you feel a pressure to perform, that doesn't indicate that you're an imposter and you should know what to do. That usually indicates you're picking up on something. So bring it back to the room. Mention it to the client. Say, hey, I'm feeling this pressure here. Are you feeling it too? And so far, in my experience, they'll say, yeah, there's something here. So you start talking about what's going on there. That gives you somewhere to go therapeutically. So all you need to do is observe what's going on. Pay attention to that connection. Put your energy into meeting the client where they're at. And then when you connect with clients, you don't feel like an imposter. You feel like you're doing something. Now, bringing it all together, we end up feeling like an imposter because we've received many messages that we're not ready yet. We don't know what we're doing. You can't pass yourself off as something that you're not, etc., etc. Well, now that you have graduated and you are registered with, whoever your college is or your regulatory body, you are qualified. you are allowed to be there. In fact, nobody else, other than that regulatory body, is allowed to say otherwise. Sure, there are going to be people who say something like that because they have a negative reaction to you. However, they're allowed to have their opinion. That doesn't mean that they determine whether or not you're qualified. All you need to do is look to your clients. If you're making that connection, then it doesn't matter what somebody else thinks. Focus on that connection. Obviously, adhere to your professional ethics guidelines and the rules of whatever jurisdiction you're in. Within that framework, just make the connection with your clients. If you focus on your common factors, your empathic listening, reflecting, meeting and recognizing their emotions, not talking over them, don't cut them off, don't make it about you, recognizing transference and countertransference, paying attention to emotions, and generally building that rapport and that connection, everything else will fall into line. You don't need to worry about that. You focus on the connection, you focus on the client now today. And that feeling of being an imposter will go away. In fact, when you're connecting with somebody, that feeling goes away immediately. So if you focus on that, just like you teach clients to focus on their coping skills, if you focus on that, your feeling of being an imposter will go away. All you need to do is work on the important aspects of being a therapist. I'm going to wrap there. Thank you very much. I hope this has been helpful. Please like, share, and subscribe. And we'll talk to you next time.